Okay, hi everyone. Welcome back to another episode of She Will Not Be Silenced with Keisha Shields. I'm super giddy if you hear it in my voice. That's why I have the lovely Cray Cray Gray Delisle Griffin with us today. Thank you so much, Gray, for being on this episode.
Hi there, Keisha. I'm so
Oh
happy to
my
be
gosh.
here.
You
Okay, so
little
I
twerp. You're a twerp, Keisha.
Oh my God. So you guys are gonna want to know what that's about and you're gonna learn. Oh my gosh. I'm like, look, okay, so I met Gray, what about maybe 3 years ago now?
Yeah.
And we were at like a resistance event, about getting Donald Trump and all those out of office. At the time, we were at an event in Beverly Hills a few years ago, and I ended up meeting Gray there, and we've kind of just like followed each other, like, online and all that good stuff. So I was so excited when she decided to come on my show. So thank you for being here, Gray.
I'm so excited. And you have to tell them the truth that I bugged you because I'm so insecure and empty inside. And she had
No,
asked me to do it. And then then the world started ending, and she was being sensitive to the fact that I have 3 children and I'm a single
yeah.
mom and I'm working, and so she didn't want to bug me about it. But I ended up bugging her because I was like, I really want to be on that podcast, and I'm going
Yeah.
to ask her again. So
And I
I
texted her that night. Like, I didn't waste any time once I knew that she was fine, that she had survived the beginning of the apocalypse there with, the coronavirus. So once I knew that she was good, I was like, okay, I'm going to text you and we're going to do this. So tell us, who is Gray?
My goodness, I don't even who am I don't even know, Keisha. No, I
Believe
well,
that, people.
for you all, you'll know me as I do cartoon voices, so I know that I've been in your if you have cable, and even if you just have public television, I've been in your living room.
I played Emily Elizabeth on Clifford the Big Red Dog for a long time. That was 20 years ago that I did that. So there's a lot of adults that come up to me and tell me that I was their childhood. And I was also Wubbsy. Wow, wow, everybody. And I'm Vicky, the babysitter on the Fairly Odd Parents.
And I play the voice of Wonder Woman, and I'm also Catwoman. Meow. And Azula from Avatar: The Last Airbender. And Jeepers, I'm also Daphne on Scooby Doo, and I've been doing that for over 20 years now. It's creepy. Oh, so many things.
For those
And I
of
also
you who
play
can't,
old ladies. Oh, the Loud House. If you have kids, the Loud House is a big one right now.
I
yes.
play Lola on the Loud House.
And her sister Lana. And I play Mrs. Bernardo, the acting teacher. And I play Cheryl, the lady who works in the school office. And
And I'm also Lily, the little baby.
And I also play Scoots, the old lady that's always on a scooter, and she's real cranky. So leave her alone.
and I'm also a mom. I have 3 kids, and I'm doing it on my own. And which I feel like is easier than doing it with a man. I know that some people probably think it isn't. They're like, you poor thing. And I'm like, no, because honestly, when I was in a relationship, I was like, you have to like be a mom and get all their needs met. Then you're like, oh, then there's you. Like after they're sleeping, like, what do you want?
So you're
Now,
actually loving it, doing it more by yourself.
I don't. I mean, their dad is wonderful. But I just it is easier. I feel like it is. And well, actually, there's 2 daddies. My oldest son, he's 13. He has a wonderful daddy who's like my best friend. But he was a touring musician, so he was always on the road. And I always had to get back in that groove when he would be home. I was like, oh yeah, okay, so yeah, so, and I was like, that's not where that goes. That's not where, I was like, I'm a Virgo. I like things the way that so if he put something, I'm like, oh no, we have a new system now. No, or no, oh, they don't like that anymore. Cause he would kind of, even in a few weeks, kids don't like the same things they liked before,
Yeah.
say the same. So I was always having to catch him up, and I just thought like, this is tiring. And then the little ones, their dad, he's I like musicians, Keisha. I'm with the band.
Yeah.
No, well, I was a musician for a long time, so that's
I was
how
going to
that
mention
happened.
that. I'm like, I know, because I know more about you than you probably think I do. Yes.
She did a little Googling, a little stalking, light stalking. Yeah.
Oh my
Silk
God, that
stalking.
makes sense because you are a musician your own self. On
Yeah.
top of being a mommy and a voice actress, an amazing one at that, probably a
Aw.
well-paid, popular one at that. You're a comedian, right?
Yes, yes, I do
How is that
stand
coming
up.
along?
Well, the online stand up is, I mean, there's just nothing because you don't know if you're. That's part of you know. I would write new jokes. You always do like your tried and true material, but then you pepper in some of those new jokes, and then you see what the reaction is, and that's how you build your set. And with these Zoom comedy, you don't know if you're funny or not. Like I don't, it's like a waste of my time. So I'm just like, you know what? I'm not doing any of those. I'm just gonna work on. I'm just gonna write, and when this is over, I'm gonna go out and I'll have tons of new stuff to try out. But yeah,
That's
no,
amazing. So, okay, so
that,
you, mommy, woman first and foremost,
yes,
mommy to three beautiful, very, I don't know, I love your kids. Like, I feel like they're like I'm telling you, like,
they could be,
I
they
know
could.
way too much about what you have going on, and that's not even usually me,
I think
right?
I post a lot too. I have been
Yeah.
told like, Gray, wow. And I'm like, I know, I'm just because usually I'm in a booth recording. So I like even now, like this is where I work. Like you can see my microphone right here.
Yes. Yeah.
And this is also my son's art studio. We're sharing, we're sharing. Um but so I've got my phone here. I'm not on it with you, but like when I'm in a boring session, all I do is just like I'm just gonna post, just like I'm just gonna, waiting for my turn. It's
I
not that
was
I'm just
wondering how you find the time. That makes sense.
yes, there's a
Oh,
lot of
she's a
time,
mom.
lots of
She
downtime.
works. She's a comedian. She's a musician. What else am I missing? Like, what else do you do? Like, I swear you like have your hands in like everything. Like, what else do you do?
I love to make it's so silly. My children go to Waldorf school. Well, they used to before it all shut down. But that's a very crafty environment. So they make Waldorf dolls for the kids, and so I do a lot of sewing with my kids, and we make like out of socks and yarn, and I know how to make a doll wig and like pull the yarn through and make like I mean, I could do like a
How do you
doll.
find the time? Like, how do you do all of that and be like a primary parent?
I don't watch a lot of television, and I don't know if that comes into it, but all my friends are always like, have you seen the new whatever? Are you watching? You got to binge. And I'm like, I've not been, I don't have time to binge anything. And
That's
as soon as my kids get to bed, it's around 9, and then I just like, I'll put on Mad Hour or something like in the background. And then I start sewing or drawing or getting food ready for the next day. Or I don't know. I mean, I have a crock pot that helps for
okay.
food.
Yeah.
And then I also involve my kids. I feel like a lot of people do everything themselves, and they don't. It's like a built-in babysitter because we don't do a lot of TV with the kids either. So like sometimes they don't know any. It's so funny when Tex was little. Tex is my oldest. Somebody told him your mom's Wubsy, and he's like, she is not. She is not. He thought it was like some kind of like terrible thing to call someone. And I was like, oh, honey, I am. It's a character. And, he was like, oh, okay. And one time he saw Scooby Doo on something and he was like, I like that doggy. And I was like, yeah, a lot of people like that doggy. And mommy is actually that doggy's friend. I was trying to explain to him. Anyway,
Yeah.
but without TV, there's a lot of time for other things.
So you're
I have
entertaining all of us, and then your kids don't get to partake in that part of you.
I
Why?
know. People are always like, your kids must like think this so cool that their mom's the voice of the thing. And I'm like, they
They
have no
don't
idea.
even know.
Yeah. But with the quarantine, I have to say I have done a little bit of TV, and of course my son's already sick of me. My 5-year-old's like, are you on this too? Because he found the Three Caballeros on Disney, and I play the Xandra, and it sounds just like me. So he's like, Mom, is that you? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, oh, God. And I feel like it's like he doesn't, it's annoying to him. He's like, you're just on everything. And I'm like, yeah, that's why you have a place to live.
Yeah, like that's how I feel, but it's not annoying. I'm like, what is she not on? Like, and that's why I say, like, I mean, you've been doing this for so long. Like, I know, like, even in my childhood, and I'm not young anymore, like, a lot of the characters, like, I go back now and I watch it, just, I'm like, that was her. Like, oh my gosh, like, it's crazy.
The Weekenders. I found out that The Weekenders was Justin Bieber's favorite show. And I'm like, oh my God, how funny. Because I was lore on that. And it's seems like a lifetime away. But
Wow, that's crazy. I remember like when you had told me, because I was telling you how like people call me like the Black Elmira, right? Because I'm
Oh,
all,
yeah.
remember that? And
But
I and you
Elmira
was
is
like,
black.
yeah, and I was like, shut the front door. I was like,
I told her, I was like, I was like, my friend was like calling herself the Black Elmira, and I had to like
like
tell
people
her.
always are like, you're like the Black Elmira. I was like, do you know she is black? I had like, cause I'm always like, like, I'm very touchy and lovey and huggy and like all of that stuff, you know.
Yes,
And so
yes.
now I'm like, I just
Yeah.
can't believe it. Like, what did I
You're
know
the
of my
second Black
childhood? I
Elmira.
don't know. You know, like I'm like all of this time. Like, so that was like very interesting. I'm like, she knows everyone. And so just to like hear you say those voices, I'm like, my mouth is wide open because I just think it's so fascinating and it's very different from any of the work that most people I know do. How
Yes.
did you know that you wanted to do that work, or how did you actually get started?
Well, another thing about not having TV, when I was little, I was raised by my grandmother and she worked a lot and it was hard for her to keep me entertained. And so, and we only had like a couple channels that barely you could get anything on. And so I had to entertain myself a lot. And so I think boredom breeds, a lot of great things. So
Yes.
she got a big boom box one day and I was like, oh, wow, what's that? My grandma was a singer. She used to sing with Tito Puente, like when she was young. But she just loved those singing those Latin boleros, and so she would like, sing for herself and she'd play her music and then sing into the other side. And I was like, this is phenomenal. So when she wasn't like watching me, I was like, I'm going to make shows. So I would make these like little shows of like baby voices and old lady. I mean, I was doing the voices. I was just a weird little kid and it just kind of worked out for me. My grandma's like, we used to think, mijita, pobrecita, we thought something was wrong with you. Because when I get excited, I don't know, I might be I'm not sure if I'm on the spectrum or something. I don't know, but when I would get excited, I would just like go, I would just shake my hands. And I don't know. I mean, I've seen people do that who are on the spectrum or something. Okay, maybe. I mean, I still do it a little bit. I mean, not in front of people, but like I have my closet tics. But so it was just being bored, and I made these little shows, and I would play them and play them back, and tool them, and like I learned how to like, oh no, I need to sound older. That doesn't sound old enough, so like doing it again, or I need to sound more like a baby. Let me try my baby cries. Let me try, just all kinds of things. So and
Wow.
screams. Oh, I have a story. I was like in second grade, and I took the hall pass. I just decided because I was never paying attention in class. I have ADHD, and I was just like, never. It was really hard. So I remember thinking, I need to work on my screams. My screams are not. Yeah, I'm gonna go. So I was like, can I have to go to the bathroom? And they were like, yes. I took the hall pass, went to the girls' bathroom, and was just in there screaming bloody murder. And then like a teacher and the custodian, like like three people rushed into that. They're like, what's going on? What's going on? And I was like, I was just, and I'm like, I was just practicing my screams. I started crying. They're like, I remember they shook me. Like the teacher goes, why would you do that? Why would you do that? And I go, I don't know. But now I know. Now I know. It all makes sense.
Oh my gosh.
So
Like,
now I do scream a lot. Like I'm kind of the stunt screamer at work.
Like you knew back then.
I can do really like blood curdling. I won't do it for you now, but like I can do like blood curdling scream. I could if I turn myself down enough. Do you want me to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Give it to us.
I'm going to turn way down because I don't know what's going to happen, but. I don't.
Oh my gosh, that's really odd.
It's a strange little skill.
That's wow. So
Yeah.
okay, so have you had to like scream on any of like the episodes that you recorded?
Oh, all the time. I do those really adult kind of like Batman dark. They're for adults. They're not for, we did this one called Gotham by Gaslight. It was all about Jack the Ripper, and I played several prostitutes who were bludgeoned and murdered and cut open, and so I did that a lot. And then I also played the singing Catwoman for that, so that was fun.
Got you. So like it's like so you I don't know, so you just intuitively when you were a kid, you just felt very connected. Like I'm thinking, or you're sitting in class, probably going over like alphabets or something, like I don't know, and you're like, I need to practice my scream. Like I mean
I don't know. I mean, I had no idea I didn't even know this was a job, honestly. Like, I remember finding out, like, what? The cartoon's up? Oh my gosh, that's amazing. And then I was thinking, oh, I would love to do that. And I remember telling someone, and they were like, Gray, do you know how many people want to do that? You're never, I mean, it's really like hard to do. And I was like, but I really, really want to do it. And I just feel like, and I always tell people, if you're as good or better than the people who are doing it, you can do it. You just have to, that's all you need. I mean, there's always room for, if you're talented, there's always room you have to find the people that find you,
So even though people were kind of telling you like basically, yeah, give it up and go do it as something else, what made you feel so convicted that why not you? Like why can't I do it?
Okay, I have to say, I have a Mexican grandmother, and I feel like it's stereotypical, but everything I did was the most wonderful, amazing thing. And my friends, I have a friend who was like hard on her kid. Like she was like, she was and I was like, oh, you got to encourage, really like nurture, because and she's like, well, I don't want him to get out in the world and then think everybody does that. I want him to be tough. And I was like, there's room enough to be tough. Believe me. I was like, here's where you get your protective coating so that when you go out in the world, no matter what anybody says to you, you've just got this unshakable confidence, which is what happened to me. I was just so convinced of my brilliance. I went to LA.
Just like Posey.
I know. Yes. I went to LA, and I'm telling you, every person I met was like, you're never going to do this. You're not that great. You're thinking that. But my grandma had so brainwashed me into thinking I was great that I was just like, it just rolled right off. I was just like, well, my grandma loves me and thinks I'm great, so I'm sure I am, and then just on to the next thing. So it was, I feel like.
But that is amazing.
When I look back, I think it is kind of, I
like,
mean, I just
how many people's grandmas are like, you're not going to be anything. You're not, so, I mean, the fact that she really encouraged you to really embrace who you were and that everything you did was just amazing. It's incredible. Do you find that you use some of those same elements with raising your kids?
I do. And my kids and we found a little deserted patch of beach that all my friends keep going, where is it? And I'm like, I can't tell you, because it's like, I don't want any people to go to it. I feel bad, but I'm just like, we need that little part we need a little patch of something for ourselves. But we were building a sandcastle, and we were like making a moat around it and like really, really enforcing it and everything. And I remember thinking, like, I told them, like, we have to really get this thing ready, because the waves are going to come and they're going to like really wash away at it. And so the stronger we can make this, the better it will stand, And then I was thinking, I'm just having like a profound parenting moment, but I was thinking, that's what I do with them. I've got to make them moats and like make them a real strong foundation, so that when the world hits them with their weight, these like unforgiving waves, that they can stand against that, So
wow. That's really good. What do you worry about for your children when it comes to them actually getting out into the world?
Gosh, well, I really hope that we can make some political changes to where there's not such an imbalance in, income. And I mean, my kids are lucky. I mean, because I try to make opportunities for my son went to a school where there were kids whose parents owned, like, the shopping mall in town, and then there was also the kids who were barely eating. It was a very, very on scholarship, so it was like really so the school was very mindful of, like they didn't do raffles or auctions or anything that where some kids wouldn't have the same chance at getting something that other kids did. So that kind of helped a lot. But I mean, if I send my kid to an art camp, I always say, like, do you have a friend you think would benefit from this art camp? Please, just have him. And my son Tex, who's 13, he's been drawing his whole life. And when he was 11, he raised like $3,000 for a friend of his to have some surgery that he couldn't afford on his jaw. And he donated the money to the school. Didn't even, he said, please don't tell the kid that it was me. And the mom was like really touched by it, but the kid never found out. And it was funny because the kid was kind of a jerk to my son. And my son, he goes, I really want to tell that kid that I'm the one who paid for it. I was like, no, but we won't do that. But I have been.
Oh, good deed goes.
Oh my God. I was a secret Santa to this woman who was just so annoying to me at work. And I really just, finally, I was like, I was not as big a person as Tex was. And I was like, hey, guess what? I'm your secret Santa. So happy holidays. It's just like your lattes are about to end. I would always have her latte waiting for her, and she was always bragging about her secret Santa, but then she was like shitting on me. Are we allowed? I'm sorry, I don't. Okay.
No, yeah, you're fine. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you're fine.
So it felt good.
Oh my gosh. So your primary worry with them is for you want them to, when they get out into the world, to do what they can to bring others along.
That yeah, I want them to not feel too like I hate little spoiled rich kids, I just
Got
hate
it.
that. But but we do have a lot of I mean, we're not like, but we have opportunities here, and I just want to make sure that that's never taken for granted, and that if you get something nice for yourself, like the Tom's shoes of of people.
Right, right.
I want
Yeah.
like every time something good happens for you, lift somebody else up.
Got
But
it. Yeah. So let me ask you this. This is something that, very different from my background, but how is it like knowing that you have like privilege, and I'm talking about financial, like, and resource privilege, right?
yeah.
In some ways, how is that, like, what do you have to really be mindful of in raising your children, knowing that you do have like resource privilege in comparison to maybe some other people? Like, what do you have to be mindful of in raising them and also in keeping yourself kind of in check, so to speak?
Yeah, well, I feel bad for my kids sometimes because like I'll do something for another kid that I would never do for my kids. Like buy them like these kids wanted one of those driving Jeep things, and I
Hmm.
was like, of course, because we do like a Santa thing with my friend has a thing called Operation Santa. If you know anybody who would want to get involved, it's so great, and it doesn't take that much money. You can adopt any size family, and usually the parents only want like little like pair of socks, chocolate, or whatever. You need to get one gift for the kid that really, really wants them. Sometimes people pick up one little small family. We usually do big families, but these kids wanted one of these Jeeps, and I remember having it in the back of my car, and my kids were like, oh, Mom! And I was like, that's not for you. I mean, they didn't get. I don't get them a lot of gifts. I just don't because I just. I don't know. I want them to make things. My kids are constantly creating their own
Hmm.
fun, and it's so instilled in my older son because I never really bought him that many fancy things or whatever as a kid, or clothes, like fancy clothes or anything. So he makes like he was wearing. There's a skateboard brand called Baker, and my son was an actor as well. He was on the Loud House with me for a couple
Yes,
years.
yes.
He's made his own money. He's been on TV and stuff, and he's got a good little account that he wants to. He doesn't touch it. He's saving it. But he had this Baker T-shirt on. They're like $50 T-shirts, and I was like, oh wow, I guess you dipped into your. Because I buy everything secondhand or vintage or
Hmm.
eBay or whatever.
Yeah.
I do have some designer things, but they're always from like eBay or like some
Right.
used.
Yeah. Hmm.
It was so funny. You can see my ADD coming out, but on a
Go
side
with
note,
it.
when
Yeah.
Tex was like 4, we had a party and we have a jukebox and a pinball machine and everything, which I got on Craigslist for like very cheap. And this kid's like, "Wow, Tex, you have all this cool stuff. How did you get all this cool stuff?" And he's like, "Hey, you know how rich people use something and then they just like get like a scratch on it and they're like, this is crap." Well, then they put it on Craigslist and my mom buys it. And I was like, "Oh my god, that's exactly what happens." Yeah. So anyway, he was wearing this fancy T-shirt, and I was like, "Wow, so I guess you dipped into your savings." And he's like, "What?" And I go, "You're the Baker T-shirt. Wow." And he goes, "Oh, no, I made this." He's like, "I downloaded images I thought were cool. I got their logo, which this is like totally probably illegal,
Yeah.
but I guess if you're not reselling it, you're fine." But yeah, he like got their logo, did like on Photoshop, made their logo on pictures he thought were cool, then like got this iron on paper, printed them out, cut them out, and he's like, and I bought like a pack of t-shirts for like $10 for like 6 t-shirts, and now I got 6 shirts, and I'm like, I thank you. This is what
Look,
I've been working
he,
toward.
he's been downloading what you've been saying. He's watched you, get the recycled, repurposed stuff, and now he's
Yes.
like, "That's."
Yes, he's like, I'm not going to spend $50 on a T-shirt. Are you kidding? We used to build houses for people in Mexico. Like there was this great organization you could drive down and like in a day you could build a house, and but they had to get the money together, and each house was like $2,500. And so when Tex was little, everything that was like expensive like that, I was always like, that's like a half a house, Tex. We're not going to spend that money. That's like 4 of those, and we could have had a house for somebody. And I was like, you have to put it. And he was like, oh yeah, okay. Like anything he wanted, I feel bad. I'd make him feel bad. But now, I would let him buy if he wants to.
Certainly.
His friends with that Supreme brand. I'm like, what a dumb brand. So dumb. People are waiting in line to spend $150 on a T-shirt. That's so stupid. Anyway, but I'm glad he thinks it's dumb too. But like, or if there was a mom at school with like a really fancy, like $3,000 handbag, I was like, yeah. And she could have built someone a house. How does she feel carrying that house around on her hand? So when I've gotten some deals on eBay and stuff, he's like, "Oh, is that a house?" Or and I'm like, "No, it is not a house. It is not a house. It's a porch."
That is hilarious. How long? Well, so how long have you been doing? Wait, what have you been doing the longest? Your voice actress work? Is that has been like the longest that you've done in terms of like?
Well, consistently, yes. The thing is that I kind of got into voiceover via stand up because I was always in acting when I was little. Like, I mean, I did play. My grandma realized that if you put me in a play, you have a babysitter till 8 p.m., which is what she really needed. So
Brilliant.
it's so smart. And so, see, out of necessity and boredom, here we go, a whole career. But yeah, she would always like buddy up with some teacher, friend in the class and say, like, you want to be in the play? You could be in the play, and then the mom can take him. I can take her home. She was always like, she would pick up my friend and take. She was always like finagling. But also she thought I was. One time she went to an audition with me, and they weren't letting me read on the bigger parts. I don't know why. Probably I was new. I don't know why. But my grandma embarrassed the hell out of me. She was like, "Why don't you let my granddaughter read that big part? These little girls are reading, and they're not even good. She's good." And I was like, ah, ah. I mean, it was just, yeah. So there's.
You had like a built-in hype woman. Like
I did. I did. And it was like that even into my like 40s that my friends would come over and she would like say, "My granddaughter is so beautiful. Isn't she so beautiful?" Oh, and I was like, I'm looking at them like, poor thing. I mean, I have a friend who's a model, and my grandma felt sorry for my model friend because she wasn't me. And I'm like, I think my friend's doing okay. Anyway. I love those grandma glasses, those like beer goggles,
yes,
yeah.
Wow.
It's like I have a theory about feet on the internet. I feel like people feel like they have really cute feet, but it's not. I was like, your feet pictures are like pictures of your gross kids. Like, you think that your feet are cuter than anybody else does.
Yeah.
So, yeah, let's not.
That's how I feel about people who like some people who cook their meals and they showcase all of them online. And I'm like, you ate that? Oh my God. Right? Like I didn't might just be because of the way that they're taking the picture. But I'm like, are you sick? Are you okay? Like,
that beige pile, you ate it. Oh God.
oh, I'm like, gosh, that chicken looks like it has no seasoning. I'm like, did you enjoy that? Or like when they post, I'm like, or something. I'm like, what is that? It's like, oh, look at this beautiful thing. I'm like, so yeah, so
that has a color on there. That's a rule. It has to have like some color. If it's all one color, no.
Yeah, and that's trust me, I get that. I'm like, and I'm usually concerned. I'm like, I hope they're okay, because
I try not to post food pics.
Yeah, well, if you do, it's okay, but just be mindful of, the presentation of it. If you're bragging about the presentation of it. Yes. Now, if you're just saying, I ate this great thing and it tasted well, okay, but if you're saying, look at this beautiful thing, then make sure it looks beautiful. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, if you're not bragging on the way it looks.
Put enough butter and salt on this pile of garbage, it tastes delicious.
So when you said the feet thing, I'm like, yeah, that's kind of how I feel about some of those. I'm like, okay, right on.
My friend posted a picture of she and her husband watching television with their feet next to each other, and I swear to God, I couldn't tell whose feet were whose. Honestly, and I feel bad, but I did screenshot it, and I was with my friends going, which one is our friend's feet? Can anybody tell me? If I put a gun to your head right now, which one is our friend's feet?
You are so bad.
I am.
Oh my God. See, I'm gonna tell you something. I love like how real you are. Like you're just who you are. Before we started recording, I was talking to Gray about how like online, like I'll just sometimes like clutch my pearls or I'm like, oh my God, like because I think it's incredible. Like I feel like you have gotten to this place in your life where you feel so comfortable like just speaking up for how you feel about things, about taking a stance on things that are important to you. How do you think you got to this place with that?
Well, I always had a big mouth, and I sometimes would say things that got me in trouble. But now, like you say, like I feel like I've gotten so, I've gotten far in my job and I work with amazing people that if a little asshole comes along once in a while, I'm able to like tell them like, hey, no, and have
Once
it
in
not.
a while, meaning like 5 times a week.
I give them a chance and then I'm get blocked.
Like,
And
who is
then
she?
I
Who is
broadcast.
she? What did they do now? Like, and she's like, this person, and she screenshots their thing with their name. Like, nothing's blurred out. Like, this idiot says, and like, I was like, that's amazing, right? Like,
Last person I called out though, she was like, the lady who like thinks Bill Gates is trying to fill us with this vaccine, and she's the pandemic idiots. And she was a voiceover actress, and I had been nice to her. I was like trying to gently say, well, this. What about this? And there's this to consider. I really feel like that's very unlikely. I was being very nice. I was very, very nice, Keisha. And then she blocked me. But the funny thing is that my friend said, oh my God, you got to go look at her post. She's absolutely bananas. And then I found out she blocked me, and I was like, ah. And then I did screenshot our old conversations that I had screenshot and put them on my page. But then I went on Twitter, and apparently everybody on Twitter hated her too. Like TMZ was like canceled and all this stuff. And I was
oh
like,
my
okay,
gosh.
it's very satisfying. It's not
See,
just
so
me.
you were on top of it. Yeah.
I'm just saying
So,
what everyone's thinking.
yeah. So do you feel like that happened? Is it just because you're at a point, your career is very, very successful, right, in your career? You're at a place where you feel pretty confident that, you can start to speak up. And so now you feel like, okay, like not feel like you have to separate. Because you're very vocal, especially about political things that are happening. Like you're very vocal about your stance on it, and also about bringing to light some of the stances that you feel are very irresponsible, right?
Yeah.
Have you been like that for a long time, or do you think this current political cycle has kind of amplified that?
I think it's a combination of always being a little bit of a big mouth, but then things getting so bad that you can't not say something. Because I've been guilty of like at my sister got married, and it was at the rehearsal dinner, and somebody said something that was really out of line, and I was like I was just ready to say something, but I was weighing like, oh God, this is my sister's wedding. I can't, we're at a table and these are her in-laws. So I'm like, I don't want to say something that's going to like ruin our family forever. So I was really, I bit my tongue, but I never forgot that person. And now I'm friends with that person online, and I have gently said, that's offensive. Like that kind of, I'm just like, I love you. I feel like you always have to come from a place of like, maybe you didn't know, because I've said, oh my God, this is a funny thing. My uncle married a Jewish woman, and my grandma is like a self-hating Mexican. And so we were having a family garage sale, and we were unpacking all of our stuff. And I hope I don't offend anybody by telling the story, but it really happened. My grandma goes, mijita, to my uncle's mother-in-law, the woman's mother. My grandma goes, mijita, don't let these Mexicans come and Jew you down, because they come here early. They try to get, and of course, and she was a very politically active, like brilliant woman. And she was like, oh, Ava, that's a terrible thing to say. She's like, that's not kind to my people or your people. And she's like, what? And she's like, yeah, you don't say things like that. And my grandma goes, oh, no, I mean, no, I don't. She said, she said, Jew you down is a terrible thing to say. And she's like, but I mean, no, I mean, like, just trying to get it cheaper. Like, she just thought it was like some kind of verb, but like she didn't know. And she was mostly talking shit about her own people. So it was just so layeredly terrible.
Oh my gosh.
But
wow.
So I always try to give people that, maybe they didn't know that's like, and and I've been guilty of saying things like that people are like, do you know that goes back? And I'm like, oh God, I don't want to be that person. So then I change. And so I always say, maybe they don't know and they need to be educated. But then after like 2 times, I'm like, okay, that's enough. You're definitely like willfully.
Like they know now, this is what they feel, this is how they believe, and all of that. And like it gets like so draining. You're like, oh my God, not again.
Yeah. Well, that's why I was like, I had to, when I said riots, which is what I was getting people mad. I was getting mad at people about saying, but I was gently saying, actually, that's kind of a pejorative term, and, but when that happened, I finally just had to unfriend people. My friend's like, why? And I go, because I can't take people to junior college every day, like a junior college civil rights class. I mean, like, I don't have the energy to be educating everybody. And of course, my people of color friends were like, you think you're tired.
Yeah.
Like, we're really tired. So
how cute.
Yeah. Nothing gets tired faster than
Isn't
a
she
rich white
cute?
woman,
She's tired. Bless her heart.
I know that's Southern for fuck you.
Yeah, exactly.
My
Bless
family's
her.
from Texas. My family's from Texas. Yeah. Anyway, but
Exactly, but that is so true. When it comes, okay, so I have a question, another question, a career question for you.
yes.
Two questions in one. The first question is your pay comparable to men's who do very similar work to you do? Let's start there. Is your pay comparable?
Yes, we get the exact same. So man, I would be so pissed if it wasn't. I mean, I would have been the Norma Ray of, yeah, I would have definitely.
Okay, and is it that way because you or your agent have had to advocate for that? Or is it in that particular part of the industry just standard?
It's just standard because we have a union who it's like union actors, whether you're male, female, trans, whatever, you get the same amount of money.
Wow.
It's so nice. But most of the parts until recently have been for men. I mean, I'm always the only woman in the room. And, it's so funny because I'm also, and I'm not even that, I mean, I'm half Mexican, but I'm not like, I mean, I definitely pass. Like nobody, if I if I was at a clan meeting, I could be like,
Yeah.
nobody would look at me twice. But it's so funny because now The Simpsons is in trouble for like appropriating,
Mhm.
but and then people are like, well, Gray's a Latina, she's, and I'm like, I mean, anyway, but like sometimes I'm the only woman and the most ethnic person in the room, which is terrifying. That's a terrifying prospect. So, yeah, but I usually am the only woman because I can play like the teenage boy or whatever. Like I can play like that kid.
That's
and then,
amazing.
and then play the little girls and the grandma and the mom, and so they can get like 5 voices out of a woman. And then most men, there are a lot of versatile men, but most of the parts were written for men up until very recently. It's so nice to be at the Loud House where it's like 8 really talented women and then 1 little boy.
Got you. Yeah. To do it. So with you, I'm glad you mentioned that there have been most of the rooms you've been in have been like all men and then you, all white men essentially, and then you.
Yeah.
Have you had to kind of like advocate for yourself or speak up for yourself sometimes in some of those rooms, depending on what the conversation has been? Or have you always felt like you were on equal footing, even in the conversations and decisions being made? Or have you had to like speak up and be the dissenting voice at times?
Well, I think as my eyes have been open to sexism, I've become a little bit more vocal. But like you say, you have to be careful because you don't want to be like because you don't want to be. It's very, I don't want to, I'm afraid of saying the wrong thing, but like I have a female friend who's a writer and we were talking about this and I was saying, I'm a really dirty person. Like I say really dirty things. And so the guys just know that they can kind of say things around me because I'll probably say something even grosser than they just did. So when Me Too came out, I was like, oh shit, what did I say? Like, I mean, I was mostly worried about what I said. And so, but my friend is a writer and she was like, I feel like we're not heard in the room. I feel like I'll say a joke and then a guy will say the exact same joke and then everybody will laugh and they take credit for my ideas. And I can totally respect that. And I think, she's like, but I'm afraid to say anything because then it's like, oh, you're not fun. We don't want to have, and then I had guy friends when that happened, like, oh, so this is why I don't want to hire female writers because, you never know. What if somebody accuses you? And I was like, that's your take? That's your
Wow.
take? Maybe I can, maybe you should not be so much of an asshole that you're afraid to hire a woman because God knows what you might do. But then again, there was a writer I heard about, a female writer who, I guess whoever drove at lunchtime got a dick drawn on their car, like in the window. But they did it to everyone, like every guy that drove, like if you drove, you got it. And so she drove and she got a dick drawn in her car and she went to HR. And so then the guys were kind of annoyed by her because they're like, we weren't sexually harassing her. She knows we all do that. We've all gotten it on our cars. And then they were thinking, now we feel like mom's here and we can't we can't have fun. And also trying to be creative in a room. Then it was funny because we had like a holiday party and she and her boyfriend came and we played that You Don't Know Jack. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's like a thing. I hadn't heard of it, but it's like a thing where you think up jokes that go to the, it's like a sentence and then you have to end it in this funny way. A lot of writers play it, I guess. But she and her boyfriend were writing the most filthy endings to all these sentences. And I was thinking, this is the person who didn't want a dick on their car. I mean, and then they were saying, like, we don't know what we can say in front of her or not because we're not sure. And in a writer's room, you kind of need to be able to say anything and just like go, oh yeah, that was terrible. I don't know. Let's not use that. Or like, what about this? And you just kind of have to, but they said that they felt scared because they didn't know if she was going to like report them for saying something that might be off color or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I get both sides. I get her
Mm-hmm.
thing. If you don't want a dick on your car, you shouldn't have to have one. And I also get them going, now we don't know what's okay with this person. We feel like, I feel like she should have gone to them and gone, guys, no, I don't want the dick on my car. But I love you guys and just been funny, which is how I always handle it. I go to them first. Because it's like in any situation, I don't want to be reported before somebody came to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like if somebody has a problem with me, I want them to go, hey, can we not do that? I mean, I get what you were trying to do. I don't
Right.
But please let's not. And then I'd be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I would respect that person so much more. But when like you get called in, it's like you did the thing. It's like, hey, you don't respect me enough as a person to just say something to me.
Yeah, to come to me first and give me a chance to rectify it.
Yes.
So you're saying, because I'm with you, like I can totally see, you know, like a big part of me, like, because I can see it. On one hand, it's like, it's work, and work, you know, there is a fine line, right? You know, and it's like maybe in the work party I was fine with it, but maybe not on the work set, right? And learning to respect the boundaries, right, that people have.
That's a good point.
Right, you know what I mean? Like sometimes, you know, because sometimes people have gotten taken advantage of on the work set because they were so casual at the work party, right?
I get it.
And so it can be very tough to like teeter that line, right? So some people are like, well, I just need to hand it off and be professional here and then let loose at this other thing, right? Like I can totally see that. Whether or not that was the case, I don't know, but I can definitely see that because I know that's something that my clients deal with a lot is teetering that line because they're usually the only woman in the room. Usually they're executives or whatever, and they're used to being with a bunch of men and they hear all the dirty stuff. And they're usually pretty crude themselves, right? But they try to keep, you know, the work stuff work as much as possible where they feel a lot of the guys don't have that separation. They're like, oh, we're all here together. We're just going to be that way. And that's just how we are, right? So I can see that in some way. But you were suggesting and also saying that one of the ways that you deal with like bringing it to someone's attention is like through humor, like in a way. That's kind of like your way of like navigating a bit.
Yes, absolutely. That helps so much. And it helps me too when somebody's pointing out something to me. I don't want people like, you know, then you immediately bristle up. Like, even though more I'm trying to just listen if I do something that bothers somebody, I just try to listen. But it's harder to listen to somebody who's like, you know, than somebody who's like, hey, just, I know you're going to be mortified when you hear what you're
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that, you know?
Yeah.
But because I had a friend who legitimately was harassed and asked out by this guy, and then when she said no, they fired her off the writing team. So I've had that friend, but I also have the friend who got a note on something and was like, and then he's mansplaining to me what this is, and I was like, I think he's explaining it to you, and he just happens to be a man. He's just trying to help you. Like, he wasn't being like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, just because somebody's a man and explaining something doesn't mean that they are mansplaining. That's a different. She's like, well, okay. I was like, you know, if he was really trying to help you, this was a mess. Anyway, so.
That's actually a really good point you bring up. I was being interviewed on a podcast yesterday about stereotypes in relationships, like being a man. And I didn't even think about that one, about the whole mansplaining thing, right?
Yeah.
You know how sometimes things go both ways, right? Sometimes women are the ones who are kind of out of line and, you know, crude and crossing the line, and men tend to deal with it, you know, sometimes, right? You know, so let me ask you this. So let's say you're the OG, right? You're meaning the OG woman. You're the one that the guys are used to like being very vulgar with, right? Because you're kind of like them in a way, right? You know, that energy. So let's say you have another woman who gets a chance to come into the room.
Yes.
She's not like that.
Yes.
How do you, as like the OG, like, and also the one who's kind of like one of the guys, how do you help navigate that dynamic so that she doesn't feel like alienated, like, you know, and cast away, but that also they don't feel like now we have to be so buttoned up and tight? Like, how might you navigate that?
You kind of have to act like it's having a new person over for dinner at the family, you know, because we know each other and there's a new person. You have to kind of be on your best behavior until you figure out, you know, how far can we take it with this person. But I was also saying, for the most part, people who end up in the booth have a theater background, and you know, when you're in the theater, like there's not a lot of boundaries. We all give each other back rubs backstage. Most people sleeping with each other, men, women, you know, whatever. Like we're all pretty gross. By the time you get into the booth, you know, you're primed and ready for some jokes.
Got it.
It's
So
not
just
like a
invite.
corporate
Got
arena.
you.
Yeah.
Great. I want to thank you so much. Thank you for being on our podcast. I think this was a fun conversation.
It was awesome.
I appreciate you so much. And do you have any parting words for our women who want to speak up a little bit more?
Use humor. If you have a problem with somebody, go to them first. And if they still can't handle it, then go to the higher ups. As neighbors, as anyone, we always want to be addressed first. You know, I had some neighbors who called the police, and then I was like, I'm mad at you. Had you come over or texted me and said, hey, can you keep the music down? Then I would have been like, oh, of course, you know, or something. But it's just like nobody wants to be told on first. But then if they're not behaving, then you tell.
Absolutely.
Then you screenshot the conversations and broadcast them, like I do on Facebook.
Thank you so much, Gray.
Okay.
Thank you. Ta-ta.